there'd obviously be an opportunity cost because we'd be diverting resources. What is done, there's thousands of academic papers that are about us or something that we've done.
Yeah.
So I read all those. Most of them are terrible. Absolute rubbish. Not that they're necessarily critical. Even the ones that are positive are really bad, quite badly written. And then there's a lot of criticism. So it's not like there's a shortage of criticism of our work. It's like any given criticism is there. It's and we've read it. The only thing that probably is missing is deep criticism. I would say
structural.
Yeah, it's a fairly deep criticism, which is designed to make the organisation more powerful. Because the only people who have the knowledge, resources, and interest to do that is us. But there's a comparison between WikiLeaks and the ICC, which I thought initially was absurd. Actually, I think it's interesting. Deterrent effect. You can make a comparison. Every time we publish something that significantly politically marginalises some institution or some state or some actor, has a general deterrent effect because other people see it and go, well, I could be next. Sometimes the things that we publish, they do go into formal processes, like the El Masri case, for example. The German citizen was kidnapped by the CIA. So eventually his legal team sued Macedonia. He was entering Macedonia at the border, and that's where he was grabbed by the Macedonian authorities and handed over immediately to the CIA. So they took him to the ECHR, and the ECHR found against Macedonia, and they cited the out stuff 6 times in the judgment. And there's a number of other cases, so so we feed into, because WikiLeaks doesn't have any force itself, it can only act in an indirect manner. Like this. Yeah.
In that sense, I spoke about symbolic power about the ICC because in the end it's just about fiction. It's about the capacity to establish fiction that becomes norm, that preserve the fiction, and if you are not able to preserve the fiction, and I'm not comparing really the ICC and WikiLeaks, but at the same time, if WikiLeaks at some point is challenged on the fact that it's capable of the fiction that WikiLeaks says the truth in permanence, without any, which is not the moment.
There's been no successful challenge on that. There's been attempts. They have not gone well.
But you imagine if it happens, like the effect on.
I think the other end is where the problem is. So making this ICC comparison, the ICC investigates a case, it finds that someone has broken their statute, and then nothing happens. But then the person gets away with it. Then the deterrent effect of the ICC starts to rapidly diminish. How many times has that happened to us? Quite a lot. So maybe it's even the majority case that we publish something, it seems to be scandalous and damaging their reputation. Maybe even it should trigger various legal things, and nothing happens. So then WikiLeaks, or the threat of a WikiLeaks type holds less deterrent. But we also have quite a lot of victories as well. So if people are looking at it in terms of risk, okay, maybe there's only a 1/5 chance that if some big thing is published in WikiLeaks, it's going to hurt. But 1/5 of something really hurting is something to take into account.
Yeah, it's enough.
It's
So
enough.
the other 4 remain there. And the other 4 remain there, even though they don't have or don't seem to have immediate effect.
That's true. They sometimes come back. Yeah, I mean, some of our publications
The value of
come
your-
back 7 years after and suddenly become relevant again. Yeah.
And that's where we come back to the value of the organization of being an archivist or libraries
Yeah.
of the apparatus of power. It's someplace meant to last.
Yeah, and
not only the
then
use
completely
effects.
independent of that. It's not about deterrent effect at all. It's just educational effect.
Yeah.
You educate a whole lot of people to understand how different institutions behave, then they can create their own deterrents. And then as so we're an international actor, that's true. We're an international brand, like the ICC.
More powerful than the ICC.
It's an interesting question. I'm not sure what the answer is actually. Probably. No, I don't. Maybe not more powerful. Have had more impact. I think is probably correct.
Yeah.
The ICC chooses not to spend its political capital.
Yeah, basically. It could be much more powerful.
So
So it
it's
decides not to be. Or decides or is pushed not to be or forced not to be, whatever,
Yeah.
but yeah.
We're spending our political capital as fast as we're earning our political capital. We're spending it.
Yeah, you don't rely on potentiality, you're really exploiting it as much as you can.
It's really interesting, this notion of political capital. So basically it comes in WikiLeaks as leaks, you process them, and then you can spend it. And it nurtures...
It's a bit hard. It also has the opposite effect. So we need to expend political capital very often to publish as well. Where there really is political capital is when we have something and haven't published it yet. It's that gap. This moment is where we have political capital.
Yeah.
And the biggest advantage. And the biggest entry of political capital you had, like maybe in the history, maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, maybe more even than the Cablegate, was the collateral video, no? That gave you this strength then to treat all the others, because like it established you.
That was part of a game plan. It was not perfectly executed, but I knew I had the cables. I knew I had all these things. Even when I went to US, I knew I had these things. So we were establishing basically, I knew that WikiLeaks, as of early 2010, although we had done lots of good things for several years, that we did not have the reputational mass or the organizational strength to be able to publish what we had.
You felt that, you knew.
I very keenly felt that. That we would be just obliterated. I mean, we just were not big enough to swallow that. And so we had.
It's too much capital, political
You would
capital.
disappear before the news would reach, I mean, before the
That was a
information
big
would
risk.
reach them.
There was a gap where I perceived that they knew what I had, and we hadn't published it yet. And this was a really dangerous. And we had huge political capital, but it was also a really dangerous period. And this gap capital I expended to rope in these other big mainstream media organizations.
Yeah.
much
to their disgust, frankly.
I still felt it in Le Monde, no? With the car, I think it was crazy. With the Central African, like my discussions were like, it was impressive to see like the obsession of distinguishing themselves from as journalists from WikiLeaks. Like this kind of like what
Yeah.
everyone's been talking on from the organization about Jack, medical, etc.
I think it's. I'm a little bit sympathetic to not wanting to take the seconds of someone else's story.
Yeah.
I'm a bit sympathetic to that. That basically, we never do it. Like, we never publish a second story. We're always the first guy.
But what you propose is equal partnership. It's not second.
It's not quite equal in terms of causality because we proposed the partnership, we brought the documents to the partnership, etc. Though I agree it's not so bad. I mean, sources bring their documents to us as well. It's not a
They get
not
a
huge
lot of
difference.
advantages for little effort.
Yeah.
They can do like
Yeah, and they can, and as a kind of practical reality, they can play down our role in the French audience. They have such a big microphone in France that we're not going to be able to counter that if they want to make our role smaller and theirs bigger.
Did you ever think about creating a publishing platform that would work with WikiLeaks, but would be like a news organization with the same kind of organizational structure in which would be a voice?
I have. It's one of our big failings. So it's there's a variety of. Okay, first of all, there's the primary business and our comparative advantages in our primary thing that we do. Other people do that. There's a very little competitive advantage into doing that, and it's expensive. And others can do it well. Generally, they can do it better than we can. What do I mean by that? Well, you want to create a feeling in readers that they don't always have a bad feeling when they go to a website to read it. You throw in humour stories and stories about dogs and so on, so that when you do a nasty story, the nasty story is actually a relief from all the fluff, right? Whereas we're always doing nasty things.
Yeah.
That really just activate two desires by readers. Well, assuming they're not the people that we're publishing about, they always read it. But it just activates two desires. One is curiosity. How does this institution actually work? How does that person work? How does the world work? Etc. The joy of learning about something and looking for ammunition against an opponent. Those are just the two things that are activated. So then the other problem, of course, is whenever you publish something that offends a powerful group, they attack back, and because there's never been a success on attacking what we've actually published. It's too easy for us to. I mean, occasionally people try and, for a little while, say it's fake or something, or say it might not be 100% accurate or something like this, but it doesn't help in the long term, and people have realised that. So they attack us as an institution, or me. This is where what a normal newspaper would do, would marshal its columnists together to produce defences, to rhetorical defences. Instead, that burden is on our broader friends and on me, the rhetorical defences. Yeah. So that is a problem. Also, for taking particular, if you really want to milk a particular angle in something that we've published for institutional reasons, like we think it's going to help us as an institution, we don't do that.
Essentially, you could be considered as a research institution.
Well, I thought, is there some way of combining these things? We do have a natural comparative advantage is that we are good at understanding our stuff. We have access to our stuff before anyone else has access to our stuff. And we have a reputation for not censoring, publishing fearlessly, especially if it's the West and military intelligence. That's basically all our comparative advantage. We don't have any other comparative advantage. And so we have to couple that secondary mechanism with what our comparative advantage is. And the natural thing to do, of course, is to somehow create an environment where it's easy to write stories about our material. But running that like a conventional media organisation is just too inefficient. And we're probably better off with something like some kind of association, with some licensing deal in the association that people publish their stories on WikiLeaks and in their other publications. Or not in their other publications. But then there becomes then there's issues of quality control. So because we have a perfect record in relation to the material we publish, that reputation for accuracy we don't want to be eaten away. And if we're permitting single journalists to publish something at their discretion under our brand, or coupled to our brand, where we take a big risk on those people. So in some ways we'd like so either there needs to be a strong peer review mechanism, which slows things down and is a hassle to manage. Or there needs to be a slight decoupling of these things.
Which could exist, because I mean structurally it's not that difficult.
Well, there'd be two ways to do it. One is we could have WO analysis, for example, .com, okay, which could syndicate its stuff to other organizations. It still feels a bit limited. The other way of doing it is creating a new kind of either research organisation on one end or news organisation, or a couple in between those two. And it just has its own brand, but it becomes the domain expert in writing about our material. And everyone knows it's the domain expert. And so stuff gets syndicated quite easily.
And the wiki idea was definitely abandoned.
Yeah, it's a complex development. What is not abandoned is an auto-leaks, because we get way too much stuff. This is a big problem. We can get a lot more stuff. Like, we're not even pushing to get more stuff because we get too much stuff. The reason that we had developed such quality control is because I knew early on that we're getting really good stuff. And I knew early on actually we could get good stuff. And I experimented with this wiki thing. So basically my analysis was that the amount of material we could get far eclipses the capacity of the entire world's media economically to process. And therefore we're going to have to crowdsource the processing in some way. But then in practice what happened is that we would have pristine, great material, and then some idiot would just would write that it's fraudulent or whatever.
So you need huge procedural steps, like developments, in order to make sure. I mean, one of the solutions would be like to be very narrowly.
Well, here's the other problem. The way I thought about this was, okay, you've got Wikipedia, it's now got about 1 million, well, it's about 7 million articles now. I think it had just over 1 million then. We have more documents than Wikipedia, but it has pages. We have probably more leaks than Wikipedia has pages. But surely it's more interesting to write about a classified report from the US military about Fallujah, which was a big left core celebrity, supposedly, in the late 2000s. Very late. How do you say that? Like 2000s. Because that could also be like 2,900. But the late noughties.
Yeah.
Then what?
Noughties.
Noted?
Noughties.
Like naughty?
Yeah. So Fallujah was a leftist cause celebrity in the late noughties, and we tried to experiment. Okay, here's a great document, because I was doing all the write-ups of all our stuff. I was doing 7 a day, and I had developed a system to make this very efficient. Like, material would come in, sometimes I had gotten hold of it, sometimes it would just be submitted, and then it would come up in an editor like that with all these fields, some pre-filled out, I would fill it, adjust it, publish, bang, and then link it into the other stuff, and then, okay. This almost killed me, doing this.
This was which period?
This is like 2007, this really almost killed me. No, well, through to 2009, basically. So I thought I got to make a test. Here's this beautiful classified document about Fallujah with like a lovely maps on it and big secret over the top, and it's Fallujah. Like, I'm not going to need to write this up because it's so attractive that all these leftists who are whining about the war in Iraq, they're going to jump on this thing. And actually also did it about the main manual for Guantanamo Bay as well, which hadn't been published when we the first to publish. No. So we did that, and no. I thought it would have spread everywhere immediately. People on these blogs would have been, oh my God, look at all this.
Nothing happened.
Nothing happened. And eventually, for the Fallujah one, the first one to do something was a guy who worked half-time with the Newswire and half-time with the Cato Institute. He did something. And someone I had worked with before. And then for the main man of Guantanamo Bay, actually I put it onto Reddit. And it took maybe 4 days gradually getting to the front page of Reddit. And it was on the front page of Reddit for I don't know, 36 hours, and then Wired wrote something about it. And then after Wired wrote something about it, eventually the New York Times wrote something about it. So it was totally bottom up phenomenon. But most of our publications are exactly the opposite way. Like that was an example where Guantanamo Bay thing is an example where this bottom up phenomenon actually worked. Like it ended up, the big media ended up picking it up.
Yeah.
Nearly all that stuff is the other way around. That actually it is the professional journalists who have taken the thing.
Yeah, because it needs a huge stock of energy to do it.
Exactly. So I just think it's a professional journalists have a profession. They can see what a marketable crowd. They will invest resources doing it because it advances their profession, and they can get money for it. It's sad. It's like but this.
No, because it's not theirs, because you made it public. So they would not, I mean, they would do it as a second thing, but not as the, I mean, they would do it at the beginning, but not when WikiLeaks came to
There was a transition stage. So in the first couple of years, when our stuff would appear in the New York Times, 50-60% of the time, they would hide our name entirely from the story. Like they would just rip us off. Lots of newspapers did this. They just plagiarized us entirely. And as the reputation got bigger, suddenly having WikiLeaks in the story made it more positive. And then we started getting credit for things that we hadn't even published. Like some other little site would publish something, but this WikiLeaks reputational vortex would just suck it in.
But
So
then
there's I ended up with a very cynical interpretation about why supposedly left-wing, not purely, but supposedly it's the biggest grouping, supposedly left-wing people write about things. And so would all these, these liberal professors writing on their blogs about the Iraq War. Here's people who actually have the capacity to analyse things. They have experience doing it and experience writing. Why didn't they analyse that Fallujah document? So my interpretation is there is a reason why all these people constantly write about what's on the front page of the New York Times, or the pages within it, even when they're given alternatives. It's cheaper. Their purpose is value projection. Is to project their value to their audience about their alignment on whatever the issue of the day is. And and they can just read the front page of Le Monde, the front page of the New York Times, to see what the issue of the day is. And actually, they're not bringing news to their audience. It's not that at all. Their audience has already had the news brought to them. What they're bringing is the coupling of the value projection they want with that news. And there's just a small moment, well, a few days maybe, where people are interested to hear about what the value projections are onto that news. So you can couple your standing as a good liberal professor or whatever. You can you can glom onto the news to produce that coupling, and then have that go into your peers to elevate your social status.
Because it costs much less like
exactly, it's way less to do that
for you, but also for your audience, which will have already read the New York Times or whatever, and will not have to find.
So you don't have to write this. You don't have to write as many words as there are in the New York Times. So they sure as hell don't have to research an original intelligence document. But I would have thought, hey, if you want to do value projection,
yes, it's even better.
Surely, if you took this original intelligence document and you were the first to bring it to the public and blah, 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 wouldn't that give you a lot more value projection? Maybe, but that requires a bit more creativity.
And maybe not.
And maybe not. And it's still a lot of work compared to just firing off.
And you need to read 100 times to gain a legitimacy to be heard about it, to be retaken about it, to have all this capacity you have to become a media by yourself.
Yeah.
And people, unlike what is commonly said, like people don't want to become their own media, and they're not their own media.
I don't think it's that so much. It's their idea is to. Well, they don't think. Obviously, if they thought with minimal effort they could take a document like that and create a debate, then that would be positive, right? But what they want to do is glom their value projection onto the debate. So they know that what's on the front page of the New York Times or front page of Le Monde is guaranteed. There's going to be some debate or desire to know what positions are. So they do that.
But because creating media is creating the desires, creating the debate, and you want to mingle into it.
Yeah.
Not you want to win the debate, not create it.
Exactly.
The existing debate you want to win. Because your value, because otherwise, you would be doing that. Whereas there, it's the best way. You have to earn short-term value as quick as possible.
It's even stronger now because of algorithms and Facebook algorithms, and so the main debates are like you've got 5 maybe themes during the day, and everybody's fair-hiding on the themes. Basically.
Yeah, that's right.
If you look at a blog or whatever.
It's fascinating his experience on that. On building on the algorithms in order to create to produce the stories that would adapt best to the algorithms. Basically, that's it. No, that's like what you have to go through. Yeah.
It's really dangerous. I think in terms of information, it's like that's why I value so much also the work of WikiLeaks. Whatever the agenda or your taste or whatever, they put documents in your face that has nothing to do with that. But Facebook gives you things you want to read, and now it's like 80% of the news consumption for young people. So you've got things that are going to interest you, but doesn't require any efforts and have no legitimacy. So for example, if a newspaper like Le Monde puts an article,
they censored our publication of the cable. So that was outrageous. We just published it, and then someone showed us a screenshot of our Facebook page and trying to click on the Hillary emails link, and it's saying, no, you can't do this because it's filled with malware.
Seriously?
Yeah.
But yes, the algorithm in this type of information is creating basically a two-speed kind of society where some people have access to really good values kind of informations, and the others have like only content they will like, and which is really low quality or not like enlightening kind of content.
Yeah.
It's really dangerous.
I mean, we also see our archive differently to people think to see it. And although I have been thinking this way for a long period of time, my thoughts were crystallized when I read a Sony Pictures, so Sony US, which owns the music and movie rights. What their advisor said should be, was their analysis of the economic field that they're involved in. And that is that all the money that, so Sony manages a whole lot of bands like One Direction, for example. The money that they spend on the first 2 years for all these releases of music, they consider a loss leader. Do you know what that phrase is? They make a loss on the first 2 years. And it's just there to promote the catalogue and to get new things into the catalogue. And they make their profit on the material more than 2 years old in this catalogue. Because they license it for commercials, for movies. They put together collections of, you know, the 10 greatest or 100 greatest or whatever. And this is where they make their profit. So to that degree, the news part of WikiLeaks, whether that's fun, some ways, and occasionally important, more and more, well, from the beginning, but more and more, I think it's the archive which is actually the bigger thing. But we need to advertise the archive, and so they're creating some sensation or creating some
Hence the big
scandal or whatever is what draws people.
Yeah, from time to time. Yeah.
We use the agenda, birthdays, things like that, phenomena that can refresh them and provide a new angle towards them.
But I think, yeah, it's a structural effect. Like more and more researchers will do their PhDs supported on this. I mean, it can only be exponential, basically. Like as a structural phenomenon, whatever happens actually of the organization and of its capacity to make
According to Google Scholar, there's 30,000 papers and court case references to look at.
Advancing.
Well, there's some duplicates. It's probably about 15,000. It's still.
Yeah. And it's only the beginning.
Yeah, and the
Whatever happens.
the really young, this kind of the 20-year-olds now, no, 18-year-olds now, pretty interesting. Like basically, the people who WikiLeaks coincided with them going through puberty. I mean, big WikiLeaks changes. Because we coincide with their adulthood, the awakening of the mind through puberty.
And you exist as a fact for them, which is also you start to like. The ICC existed for me as a fact, so the perspective is not the same on something you didn't know before, you didn't, and something that exists as an installment and that creates the effect you said that WikiLeaks now is considered as like in the world as part of the world basically.
Yeah.
So and this is going to be nourished and strengthened by the generation.
I'm just leaving you where I am my train. I'm sorry.
Don't leave.
Piker.
What?
Piker.
Baker?
He's Australian slang for someone who
Piker?
leaves parties.
Parker?
Piker.
Piker.
Ça veut dire parties?
No, someone who leaves parties when they shouldn't.
Or cancels coming in the first
You
place.
have to take care of the little kitten.
Yes, I'm worried about
And
that.
if it rushes, then you give back to Compalo tomorrow. Yes, Compalo will take it back to Paris. You can try.